Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here to film a video talking about some fun books I've read recently. So as I've mentioned in some of my past videos, that I've been really leaning into reading books that are fun to read, genre fiction very often, and just, stuff that I would consider like watching sitcoms on TV, like that same sort of level of commitment and entertainment, basically, entertainment value. So these books that I'm going to talk about are books that I read in the month of September and have not yet talked about or reviewed in their entirety. I did talk about the books that I read for Shorty September during that month, but these are the fun books that I read. And I'm kind of laughing at that description because the first book that I'm going to talk about is Wolves of the Calla by Stephen King. This is book number 5 in the Dark Tower series. This is dark fantasy. Probably nobody would really call this, particularly fun because of the horror elements. Although I, tend to find Stephen King fun to read no matter what. Not that I'm particularly into horror fiction, but I just like his storytelling style. I've been a fan of his since I was a teenager. So in this one, book 5, we're following Roland the gunslinger and his quartet, which is his group of people that he has accumulated around him while he searches for the Dark Tower. They're on this journey, and every book sort of is theoretically getting us closer to them potentially finding the Dark Tower. But in this one, they're in a place called Calla, and the wolves refer to a group that keeps coming into the community of the people that live in this area who are farmers and rural sort of householders, and taking the children and doing something with the children, doing something terrible to the children. And so Roland and his group are asked by the people that live in this area to please help them deal with these wolves. They're not wolves in the sense of like animals of wolves. That's just the term that is used for this group that comes in to take the children and do something to them. And so Roland and his group have to decide, A, are they going to help these people because it's sort of a side quest to their main quest, and it could potentially lead to some of them being injured or killed or not able to make the journey to the Dark Tower. But in the end, of course, they do decide to stay and help this community. And it is a story of what happens to the group of them and also what happens to this community. There are sci-fi and fantasy elements both in this story, and like I said, touches of horror as well. So it really is a mashup of genres. Even though his books are always quite thick, unless you're reading his short story collections, they are fast reads, I find. And then this is the illustrated version of this particular volume of the Wolves of the Calla, and I really enjoy these ones. I think they're really cool with the art and work inside. So that is the last book that I've read so far in the Dark Tower series. I still need to read book 6 and book 7 to complete that one. Then I read A Perilous Undertaking, which is book number 2 in the Veronica Speedwell series by Deanna Raybourn. I buddy read this one with Britta Bowler. And this is historical mystery, and it's set in, let me just look at my notes, 1887 in London. And Veronica Speedwell is a lepidopterist, so she studies butterflies. She is she does not conform to the Victorian imagery of what a woman should be like. She is very independent and educated and intelligent and not willing to put up with a lot of crap. And she has gotten hooked up with a man named Stoker. Stoker is her partner in crime, basically, although not in crime because they're investigating crime. And they have been hired to sort of collate and organize a aristocrat's collection of things that he has collected around the world, artifacts and archaeological bits and natural like stuffed animals and stuffed birds and insects and all that sort of stuff that Englishmen were wont to do back in the 1800s, run around the world collecting things. And so they're supposed to be like cataloging and organizing all this nobleman's collection, and they are living on his property while they do so. While they're doing this activity, Veronica is approached by a lady from the upper classes and asked to investigate a man who is being held for the murder of his mistress. This noble lady says he didn't do it, he didn't commit the murder, somebody else must have done it, and I want you to investigate and figure it out and get him, he's going to be hung for murder, and I need you to rescue him, basically. So Veronica and Stoker go off to try to figure that out, and plot ensues. This was, like I said, book 2 in the series. I did not love this installment. I thought there's a lot of emphasis on like titillating and maybe shocking type of content, sexual content, that I just found irritating rather than shocking. But I am willing to give it one more go with Veronica Speedwell and see if book number 3 does tickle my fancy. Britt and I agree on that. We're going to give it one more try and see if the series sort of takes off on book 3 for us. Then I read Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This is one of her newer novels. It is fantasy, and it is a reimagining of Snow White. And so we have, I think it's Anja. Anja is a healer, and she is contacted by the king to come and treat his daughter, who he says is suffering from some mysterious illness. And he doesn't know what it is, and would she please come and fix his daughter. And so Anja travels to their country estate where the daughter is staying, and all sorts of weird stuff is happening. There's magic mirrors and talking cats, and Anja's been assigned a bodyguard who is very non-communicative, but also like always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And Anja is really trying hard to like figure out what is going on with this daughter and with this family. And it was very entertaining. I listened to it on audiobook. I would definitely recommend it in that format. It was really well done, and there's a lot going on there. I mean, I'm not typically one for like fairy tale retellings, but I thought this one was really fun. And I really enjoyed Anja as a character, and I enjoyed like the supporting characters as well. There's a lot of humor and heart, and as always in a T. Kingfisher book, like there's stuff going on and there's plot, but there's also like just really feel good moments as well. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. So that was an excellent one. On my T. Kingfisher journey, I would say I'm still really enjoying discovering her books and reading through her stuff. And then I read a book that was lent to me by my niece, and this one is called The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, which is book 1 in the series called Love's Academic. I'm sorry, I got some notes over here that I'm referring to. And this is by India Holton. I had never read this author before, and this is another sort of fantasy romance type story. So we're following 2 main characters, Beth and Devin. They are both ornithologists, so they study birds. They're both like academic researchers, and they get caught up in this competition to capture a rare bird. And if they capture this rare bird, they will be named Birder of the Year, and they will get tenure. And so they're competing against one another for this accolade, this prize. And again, it's another one where the woman in the story is like very non-traditional and very much into her craft, which is studying birds. She's very intelligent and knowledgeable and really smarter than the people around her, including all of the men. And what is fun about this romance is that Devin like immediately recognizes her intelligence and is like, she's way smarter than me. So you should like, he very much like, he is smitten very early on, and I always enjoy it when the man is the one that sort of is like falls in love first and like has to convince the lady that this is a good idea. And it was a little madcap for me in the beginning. I will say at first, like it's really silly and sort of madcap and like pratfall and slapstick humor, and that is not typically my style. But once we sort of get into the main flow of the storyline with our 2 main characters and we understand where they're coming from, and they sort of start working together, then the story really took off for me and I enjoyed it. The other thing to know about this is the birds in this world are the magical part of it. Like there are like devices, like you can use your umbrella to like as a jetpack kind of a thing, like so it can help you fly, and things like weird little technological things that are happening. But the thing that is really fun is the birds are sort of like mashups of different things that make them very dangerous. And so these birds that the birders are trying to capture are potentially deadly and, blow things up or poison people or just like do other things. And they are quite dangerous and deadly. And that's really fun to read about and to like see where the author took inspiration to like bring different elements together to create these species. So I enjoyed that very much. And I probably will read the next book in the series because I think the next book is about a different couple and it's a geology-based academic romance. So that one sounds fun too. And I should say these take place in a fantastical world that's probably like maybe Victorian, maybe Regency era, like definitely not modern times, like back 200 years ago times. So that's fun too. The next thing I read on my fun list was a romance novel, and this was Remember Love by Mary Balogh, which is book 1 in the Ravenswood series. This is historical romance. I buddy read this with Doris and Katie, my romance buddy readers, and really enjoyed this. Mary Balogh writes like very gentle romances with very little or a light sex in them. So if you don't like that, if you like your romances a little more spicy, like probably not for you. But if you like me, like yours to be a little bit less spicy, these are great. The people are all super nice. Like they're not big villains in these stories. They're just like nice people, like trying to live their lives and do the right things. I also really appreciate that most of the time in her books, at least in this series, like the adults have adult conversations with each other. So like there aren't just things that are left unsaid or things that are like, if you would just have a conversation and speak to one another, you would be fine. Like this whole situation would get resolved. Like Mary Balogh does not let those types of things like stop her story and drag on her story. The negatives I would say is like the dialogue, like the internal dialogue of the characters can get repetitive. So like there are things that there are conflict and there is like trauma for each character to overcome, not huge ones, but things that they have to deal with that are not happy things. But like they think about those things over and over and over again, and it's like that can get repetitive. So that's probably my only tick against them. But these families, and in this one we're following Devlin is the man, and his lady love is Gwyneth. They were neighbors growing up. Some things happen when they're young people. Like she, I think, is 18 and he's like 20 or something, and they have, realized they have feelings for each other, and then something major happens in the families, and they are split apart. And it's like 6 years later they come back together, and what's going to happen? So it's like second chance romance type of a thing. But the families of each of these characters are just awesome. I love the family dynamics and the family interactions in these books. This is the second book that I read in the series. We started with book 3 in this one for whatever reason, and now we're going back and reading them in chronological order. So now this is book 1. And yeah, just really lovely people, really lovely families, really wonderful romance, really heartwarming. There is a scene in like the first third of this book that I just sobbed uncontrollably. It just hit me in all the feels, and I just cried and cried. So if you like that in your romance, usually there's at least one scene like that in every one of the books. So yeah, these are not like romantic comedies. These are more like gentle dramas. There are some funny moments, but it is more of a emotional type of a romance. So yeah, really loving that series, and have already read book 2, but read that in October, so we'll talk about that at another time. And then lastly, in September, I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. And this is not an author I've ever read before. I've been seeing this series or this author's books around on BookTube quite a bit, so I thought, I'll take a chance on it. So this one we're following, I don't know if it's Micah or Mika because I read it and didn't listen to it. So it's, let's say Mika Moon is a witch in Great Britain. Witches are not like out in public, so she knows, she's been brought up to know that she can't let anybody that's a normie know that she's a witch. And she has followed those instructions, but she is now an adult in her late 20s, I think, maybe somewhere around in there, and she's lonely. And she, you know, is kind of doing her thing, but she's feeling really like lonely and antsy, and like she wants something in her life to change. So she starts doing YouTube videos or making online videos on social media and like pretending to be a witch, even though she really is a witch, but like doing it in a way where nobody would really believe that she's a witch. And somebody sees her videos and sends her a message and is like, I have these 3 young witches, children, and I need you to come be their instructor. I need you to come teach them, like be their live-in governess, homeschool teacher type of a thing, because this is modern times. And so she's intrigued, like, how does this person know she's a witch? Because she's pretty sure that she hasn't really given anything away. And it turns out that there's reasons why this person knows she's a witch. And so she shows up at this house, meets these children, meets the other supporting characters, and is like intrigued and like knows that she really probably shouldn't do it, but wants to. And so starts teaching these children. And of course, found family, a romance, some stuff that possibly could break them all apart and like cause their exposure to the wider world. The fact that there are witches. She has to deal with her past and her upbringing and find out why certain things were done when she was a child. Just lovely. Just a lovely, fun story. I had a really good time. Like, I don't think that there's anything earth-shattering in this. I probably won't remember very much about it for a long time, but I had a really good time while I read it. And I have already bought the other book by this same author, which is Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, I think. And so, you know, I had a fun time. I had a good enough time that I wanted to read something else by this author. So, you know, what else can you ask for? And it's perfect for spooky season. So if you're looking for a fun romp for spooky season that is not bloody and gory but has witches, here you go. This is a great one. So those are some fun books that I've read in the month of September, and rounds out pretty much most of what I read in September, I think, that I have not yet already talked about on the channel. So hopefully you found something in there that you might find interesting to pick up. And I hope you're all doing well, finding some great books to read. I will talk to you later.